a video from Ben Shapiro called "Not All Heroes Tuck," which it talks about societal corruption. And I'm going to find things I don't like in here either. Like this one from Anubian. Revenge for the video. This is from, and I won't delete it. Well, Anubian, I would never ask you to delete something so traumatizing and horrifying. I don't know why I would. The next one we have here is from Candle. It said, "Take it. I gave up on the stockings." It's completely okay to give up on stockings. Not everybody has time to do, like, fishnet shit. Which seems to be what you were going for at first. Actually, turns out on Photoshop, there are people who make fishnet brushes specifically to deal with the problem of drawing those god-awful stockings. So, thing to know, but thank you very much for the fan art, Candle X. Last one we have here is from Dog. Said the morally and historically correct Suris. Why? Why? Anywho, as always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. I'm scared and traumatized. I don't know what I expected, but it certainly was none of that. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop to the fan art section of the Discord. Also, if you haven't already, maybe consider checking out some other channels of mine. There is Suris Video, where I talk about video game type stuff, and there is also Suris TCG, where I talk about Magic the Gathering, which is weird because that channel randomly exploded, and I don't understand it. YouTube is a strange thing, and I do not get it, and I'm just going to click the Ben Shapiro video, because my existential dread will go away at this point. Also, I love how there's this video right here. Proof Darwin was wrong. It's in this dusty old book called the Bible. Okay. Okay, let's go. Let's take a listen.
2 weeks ago, the President of the United States hosted a human named Dylan Mulvaney to the White House. Mulvaney is a TikTok star and former actor who starred in Book of Mormon. Nobody had heard of any of this until about March 2020, when Dylan Mulvaney decided that he was actually a woman. Now he has about 8 million followers on TikTok, was featured by Forbes at their Power Women's Summit, and has a series of contracts with makeup companies, including ad deals with CeraVe, MAC, Neutrogena, and Kate Spade.
All right, so first off, have you noticed how often they're doing everything in their power? Ben Shapiro does everything in his power to just misgender at every point. It was a person named Dylan Mulvaney at first, and then it turned into he, despite the fact that Dylan does not identify as he. Obvious for anybody who knows Dylan is trans. We actually went over a video of Dylan at the White House, because the conservative twins, the Hodge twins, did that. Also, this is at YAF. So yay. Fun organizations like that. Let's continue.
That's right. Men are so unbelievable at being women that one can say he is a woman and become one of the most influential women in America in just 6 months of wearing dresses and ironing his hair.
So, one, again, her hair. Two, I like this technique. And by like, I mean hate. But has anybody else noticed this technique from people like Ben, where they try to turn, and I think this is one of the reasons why the TERF movement has gained so much ground, and then, of course, when Ben talks about it at the Young Americas Foundation, which is a conservative youth summit, which is, you know, fun. Totally not corrupting young people, but we have a conservative youth summit. Projection is a wonderful thing. Anyway, point is, you have someone like Ben Shapiro, who his goal is to ignite flames against trans people, because that's how he makes money right now. the way that anybody like a Ben Shapiro or a Matt Walsh or a Michael Knowles, the way that they make their money is by taking whatever the culture war is bitching about and magnifying it, and then getting paid by advertising dollars and sponsorship deals and speaking engagements. As long as they are willing to talk about the current thing, they make money. Now, this is not super outside of, the norm for anybody on a place like YouTube in general. All of us have to stay somewhat topical, somewhat relevant. We have to have conversations about stuff like this despite us maybe not wanting to, because the platform and algorithm are going to drive us to do so. So I'm not unfamiliar with this state of affairs, but I do find it gross when the way that you are making that money is coming out on the other end. What's the logical end result of a world piloted by someone like Ben Shapiro? Well, it's a world that is worse for minority groups, worse for trans people, worse for gay people. And who's it better for? People who already have things pretty fucking okay. Like, that's my issue. If we take Ben Shapiro's ideal world to a logical extreme, the people who benefit are the people who are already in positions of power, and the people who suffer are the people who are already suffering. It just gets worse on both ends. I don't want that kind of world. Splitter Kid, thank you very much for redeeming your points for an oh, and Dragonart, thank you for redeeming your points for an ara. You fucking degens. Anyways, let's go.
The patriarchy always wins, gang. So,
a little, stupid nod to the patriarchy thing. Okay, look. Being in a society where most of the people in power are men, most of the people in positions of power in politics, as well as in business, are men, that's what makes our society a patriarchal society. It wasn't until recently, literally within the last 100 years, that women had things like the right to vote. And even things like a woman's body to choose whether or not they're allowed to do with their body what they will, that also is being taken away. None of that shit happens if your society is not, in and of itself, somewhat patriarchal. Now, I know that the obvious counter to that is that there are bad things that happen to men too, and you're right, and we should be focusing on both of those. I think it's just as important that we make sure that women are able to decide whether or not they have to carry someone to term in their body when it's their body, not anyone else's, as it is important to talk about men being sidelined in the social zeitgeist. Completely understandable that these are both situations and both conversations we can have. So never let anybody who tries to say, well, men have problems too. Okay, cool. That's neat. We're trying to address all of that. Literally all of it. But at this point, I'm rambling. At this point, I'm going to hit the button, and we're going to keep going.
This person, this fellow Mulvaney, he began to document his attempt to become a woman in a series that he dubbed Days of Girlhood. Day 1 featured Mulvaney explaining that he had cried 3 times, had told someone he was fine when he wasn't, and had ordered clothes that had cost too much money. All hallmarks of being a girl, according to him. It's not sexist at all if he says it. That's just what being a woman is, right? Crying too.
No, it's... Okay, so if you're in our society, men are told not to cry. That's just been a common thing for years. Men are told not to cry. So letting yourself actually break down and have those crying moments, a lot of times that can be seen as a very feminine thing to do. Now, crying should not be considered feminine or masculine, but that's just a part of a toxically masculine society, like the one we live in. Buying clothes that cost too much. So let's put it this way. For the most part, if I want to go to Walmart and get an ensemble for myself, I might spend about $30, maybe. And that is me getting a full thing. So I'm getting a shirt, about $10. I'm getting a thing of khakis. That's probably going to run me $10 to $12. And then underwear and socks, if I'm getting that as well, then there's my last $8 there. If I'm getting, a single pair as opposed to getting a thing of Hanes that has 4 to 10 pairs of underwear, which break down in like 6 months, but, at least it's $10 for all of the pairs. But I might spend about $30 on an outfit going to a general Walmart. And with that $30, I have a lot of different outfits I can put together. Whereas when Raz goes to the same store, if we aren't relying on things like sales, using $30 to put together an outfit there, you might spend most of that on just a decent bra that isn't going to cut into you with its wire. Like, in general, unless you are going and going specifically to a thrift store, it is more expensive to clothe yourself as a female than it is as a male. And that does kind of suck, but at the same time, what's the best way to put this? Marketing trends are that tools are sent for guys and clothes are sent for women. A lot of money is put in by marketing agencies to make clothes more desirable for women. For men, there are designer sets for men. There is marketing put into it, but nowhere near as much as there is for women. And as a result, a lot of times, those clothes are a lot more expensive to justify the extra money being thrown in on marketing campaigns. This is why I would encourage a lot of people to thrift.
Too much and fibbing to your friends and spending too much money on clothes. That's what women do. See, if I say that, that's an ugly stereotype about women. But if I say I'm a woman, then I have the authority to speak about these ugly stereotypes and pretend that they actually apply. Other days featured
I don't think the logic actually follows there, Ben.
Mulvaney, who is the most female of all females, jabbering about the size of his nipples, which have been changed by estrogen shots. Spoiler alert, they are allegedly, according to him, pepperoni-sized. I wish I were kidding. I am not.
What's so funny about that? Okay, look. When trans guys go on T, the clitoris begins to grow into something more akin to a penis. It gets bigger. It stretches. It hurts them. When trans women go on E, their chest begins to expand, and the nipples go with it. I don't see how that's funny. That's just scientifically how that works. Red Joker says, I wasn't aware of that aspect of T. If you want to know some more aspects of what it's like to be on T, I would highly recommend checking out a fellow content creator, Luxander. Luxander actually has been documenting a little bit of that over on Twitter as well. So, yeah, fun stuff. Anyways.
And also talking about normalizing his crotch bulge in tight pleather shorts. Because, as we all know, from all of our professors, some women have penises. And we all must acknowledge this simple fact.
Yeah. If we accept that trans women are women, which we should, then, yeah, some women have penises. Actually, technically, biologically, all women have penises. All of them. Every single one. It's called a clit. The clit is just a small penis. If you have ever gone down on your partner and stuck your mouth entirely around the clit, you have basically given a blowjob, just on a very small dick. I'm sorry. That's biology. But I know that's not what Ben is talking about.
It's a lot of heroism. A lot of heroism. Not all heroes tuck. So...
I like how that's considered funny. Like, okay, the actual statement there, not all heroes tuck, that could be a funny joke. I could find myself laughing at that if it weren't Ben Shapiro saying the joke, and if it weren't him saying the joke to a bunch of people laughing because, haha, transphobia. Like, that would be funny if it was one trans person saying it about another trans person. Just like it's... There's a lot of jokes like this that land better when somebody from the community is making the joke. Because somebody from the community is likely not making the joke in malice. They are making fun of the stereotypes. As opposed to what Ben is doing, which is using them to get a laugh out of people who are likely all there because they are in some way harboring malicious thoughts about trans people, like Ben is, like he does multiple times on his channel. And he can say, no, I'm not harboring malicious thoughts about trans people, but then, like, evidence tends to be to the contrary of that.
So naturally, Joe Biden, the president of the United States, the most powerful person on President's Earth, brought Mulvaney to the White House to interview him. Biden doesn't do interviews with actual members of the media who might ask him questions, forcing him to use what is left of his brain. But he does do interviews with men who believe they are women. So Mulvaney donned a trans-colored pantsuit, I'm not kidding you, and sat across from the president, and he asked the president, quote, "Do you think states should have the right to ban gender-affirming health care?" Now, for those who don't know, gender-affirming healthcare is a euphemistic misnomer for a series of medical interventions ranging from social transition, where everybody pretends that you're a member of the sex that you claim membership to cross-sex hormones, which would be shooting kids who are boys full of estrogen or girls with testosterone, to mutilation and sterilization surgically, ranging from breast removals and phalloplasties in girls to vaginoplasties in boys.
So, I like how every single thing he said was technically true. But the way that he said it frames every single one of those things as awful. As an example, I can frame every single type of surgery as a type of mutilation. I can frame every type of injectable medication as you being hopped up on a drug. I can frame any type of medical intervention as awful, and I know I can because historically we have. Back during the days where we thought that bloodletting and blowing smoke up the ass were useful for more than just a handful of procedures, we frowned on things like surgery. We thought it was butchering a person, mutilating them. There were people who died because of their appendixes not being able to be removed because there was social stigma about having somebody cut into you to fix the damn thing. I know that we can reframe every type of medical intervention and surgery as awful and repugnant and evil because society has done it in the past. You can frame anything as sketch as fuck. So I want you to notice what Ben Shapiro is doing. Because what happens is he will make this statement, the statement he just made right here, and then when you take umbrage with the statement, the immediate rebuttal is anything he said untrue? And the technical answer is, it's not technically untrue. Yes, gender-affirming care is a combination of affirming someone's gender socially, getting them the medical care they need via hormones, and getting them the medical care they need via surgical intervention if those things are necessary. Necessary being necessary for that person's mental health. So yes, those three things that he said are technically true. And then when you point out the problem is the way you're phrasing it, then you'll get lambasted for being an SJW cuck because you're just angry that somebody is being mean, but they're speaking the truth. Despite the fact that the way he is saying it, to the audience he's saying it to, and the way he is framing this is literally the problem. It is the issue with his statement. The issue with his statement is that he is taking a group of potential bigots and leaning them more towards the likelihood of just being affirmed bigots. That is the issue here. And the way that you do that is through framing. The way that you do that is through tone. The way that you do that is through implication. And if every word you say is technically true, then everybody will nod their heads and go, well, he's telling the truth. What he's saying is true. And they won't care about the fact that the way you are saying it is the issue. It's a double-edged sword, because you want to talk about it. You want to say, hey, the way you're saying this is the problem, but as soon as you engage that way, as soon as you tell them that what they're doing is wrong because of the way they're saying it, you'll get lambasted because you're just angry that he's being mean. But you're not listening to what he's saying. What he's saying is true. That's what they're going to come at you with. And it's an awful catch-22, because now you've got to sit down and you've got to try to educate somebody on the fact that the way somebody says something has this much weight.
So Joe Biden responded to this question, quote, "I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that. As a moral question and as a legal question, I think it is just wrong. It is morally wrong to prevent minors from getting these sorts of quote-unquote treatments." So, assume for a second that the President of the United States, his brain is not complete applesauce at this point, so we have to ask a question. How did one of the two major parties in the United States, the entirety of the legacy media, all of academia, and nearly all of corporate America come to believe that transing the children isn't just something that some people could do, it is a moral necessity, that an attempt to stop it is some sort of moral wrong?
So, transing the kids is not what's being talked about here. So, what Ben Shapiro is doing is he's lying by omission. When he says transing the kids, what's actually happening is kids are getting puberty blockers. And not all the time. Several states are banning that. But kids are getting puberty blockers, a medication that we use for a variety of things, including breast cancer treatment for early onset breast cancer in children. A medication that we have been utilizing and studying for more than just trans people for ages. So, what happens here is Ben says transing the kids, and you say, well, no, it's not transing the kids. If a kid is trans, they're just trans. Like, being trans is not transitioning. Being trans is just not identifying with your assigned gender. So that's not transing the kids. The identity is not transing the kids. So what is transing the kids? Is it the surgery? Because by and large, that's not happening. Is it the hormones? Because by and large, that's not happening. Unless you count the puberty blockers, which are stopping the hormones from being metabolized by the body. If you count that as hormones, then I guess maybe technically. But even then, I wouldn't call that transing the kids, because no kid is being transed. The kid is being bought time to determine whether or not they want to go through the puberty that their body has laid out for them, or the puberty that they might prefer later. Sometimes that puberty can be bought later because of time, and sometimes it can be bought later because of trying to stop cancer, and sometimes it can be bought later because the kid might be trans. Like, it's not common for minors to start hormones before the age of 16. It's not common for minors to get surgery before the age of 16. It's not common for minors to get any of this shit before the age of 16. And, oh, by the way, most puberty blockers are taken at an age where at about 5 years, after 5 years of taking them, which is the recommended amount of time to take them, you end up being about 16 or 17 years old. Weird, funny that puberty blockers are literally designed to buy the amount of time you would expect somebody to have before they become old enough to, say, I don't know, drive a car and start engaging in the adult world. It's really weird that medical agencies understand that is a thing. Now, what Ben Shapiro is doing here as well is trying to get you to believe in some grand conspiracy. So, the words he used were, it's really weird to me that all of legacy media and all of medical societies and all of one of the two political parties in the states all agree with this. Well, let's break that down for a sec. And somebody may hit me and say I'm nitpicking on this video, but I nitpick on every video because I think that the details matter. I think the details are important. So, we've already gone over the why what he's saying with transing the kids is wrong. Let's talk about the way he's framing this conspiracy. Well, medicine, by and large, works on a consensus basis, because medicine is science, and science is based off of peer review, and peer review is based off of expert consensus. So why would most of the medical field agree with one thing? I don't know. Maybe because that's how the medical field has worked for 100 years. Cool. Boom. Now, why would legacy media believe that? Well, legacy media tends to do things for two reasons. One, social zeitgeist, or two, money. If the social zeitgeist has changed in such a way that trans people are more accepted and more is understood about trans people because the medical community has made certain things known about trans people, then legacy media is likely going to get on board. Why would all of legacy media do that? Well, Ben, that's a capitalism. There's like 6-ish or less media companies that control everything. Why would all of legacy media believe one thing? I don't know. Probably because it's all owned by a handful of people in suits. If you don't want that, then maybe it would be a good idea to do something about that capitalism thing that created the problem of, a homogenized media conglomerate of moguls. Maybe, if you have an issue with that, we could do something about it by breaking a lot of them up. That would be a thing we could do to solve that problem, but Ben's not going to advocate for that. He would rather point to it and yell conspiracy, because pointing to it and yelling conspiracy without doing anything is what makes him money. Oh, and why would one political party agree with it more than the other? Well, I take you back once more to why does legacy media do anything? Either because the social zeitgeist has shifted that way, or because of money. Those are the two reasons legacy media does things. Why does anybody do anything in politics? Social zeitgeist or money. People who are in power in politics, I know that there are individual actors who are legitimately trying to make the world a better place, but by and large, most people involved in politics, they are there because it is their job, it gives them a good paycheck, and corporate lobbyists can pay a whole lot, and that influences their decisions, or the social zeitgeist is such that influences their positions. Because turns out, if the social zeitgeist is against you and you do something in politics, you don't get elected again, and there goes your paycheck. There goes your job. There goes your legacy. Despite the fact that, you get a permanent paid everything until death in many of those positions. But that's not as important. The most important thing there is that anybody in politics, they want to keep their job. And you keep your job by either keeping your lobbyists happy or keeping society happy. The social zeitgeist moves in the favor of trans people, and the money moves in favor of trans people because the legacy has moved there, then that's what's going to happen. You're going to have that avenue, and you're going to run in it. The other way to make money in politics is by being the counterculture, by being the counter to do that. Now, while I wouldn't say being anti-trans is the counterculture, I would say that there are more louder voices in the Republican Party against trans people, so they get to claim by default they are being the counterculture. Look at them, aren't they all so edgy? So why would 3 disparate organizations all believe the same thing, Ben? Probably because they are all linked by the same factors. They are linked by the social zeitgeist, and they are linked by money. 2 of them are, anyway. And with one of them being based in science first, maybe we should just look at that one and ignore the other 2. I don't give a fuck what legacy media says about anything, and I don't give a fuck what politics says about anything. I don't care what politicians say about Jack. I care about what data says. I care about what science says. Dead man walking, think about the follow. But if I care about those things, if I care about data and I care about science, then we ignore the politics and we ignore everything. What are we left with? Well, we're left with trans-affirming healthcare good. This is how it works. But we're in the weeds. Let's continue. Let's get as far into the Ben Shapiro video as we can.
Well, the transing of the kids has become the latest symptom of a far deeper and more profound evil in Western civilization. That evil is the broad redefinition of Western identity as a whole around subjective sexual feeling. See, traditional morality sees identity in a different way. Traditionally moral people see identity as a symbiotic relationship between the individual and society, or a mix of biology and the institutions that shape us. Identity lies between those two things. This is why the goal of parenting is to civilize your child. Your child is a bag of emotions. I have 3 of them. They're bags of biological-driven emotions. Okay, they don't have what we would call in Hebrew seichel. They don't have common sense. They have not been civilized, and your job is to get them used to the institutions of civilization so they can interact well with the world. Philosopher Carl Trueman of the University of Utah writes, "It is in communal activities that individuals find their true selves. The true self in traditional cultures is therefore something that is given and learned, not something the individual creates for himself." Today, Western morality has utterly discarded this idea. Who we are is not...
I like how he treats Western morality as a person with thoughts, feelings, and actions. Western morality is not a person. Western morality is an idea. It's also a statement that means nothing. What is Western morality? What does that statement mean? What are the creeds of Western morality? Well, you're not going to be able to find any consensus on any of that because it's not a thing. Yeah, Western morality has obviously never changed before. Yeah. Like, Western morality as a concept is an idea that is ever-changing via a combination of social zeitgeist and utility. As we understand better as a society that certain things are good and certain things are bad, our morality will be shaped accordingly. People who grow up realizing that, hey, slavery maybe not be so great, and also realizing from a utilitarian point of view that it also might not be financially viable in the long term, combination of those will lead people down the path of not keeping slaves. Turns out, society and morality are not people. They are liquid ideas that are ever-changing. And like a liquid, they tend to change based on the shape of the container they're in. So what the fuck is Western morality? Don't fucking know. No idea. Because it's a vapid statement. All that matters is that everybody in that room has an idea of what Western morality is. If everybody in that room thinks they know what Western morality is, they can engage in whatever bullshit idea Ben Shapiro is selling them. I know this because this is how church works. If you tell somebody in a church something about God, it doesn't matter that everybody in the pew has a different idea about who God is and what God wants. All that matters for the preacher is that everybody has a shared idea of what God potentially is. And if they do, then they can take Ben's words, internalize them, and interpret them as they will. Dragonhearts, thank you for redeeming your points for an owl.
A question of society or institutions or roles. Instead, who we are is a question of internal feeling alone. Any societal force, any institution that crimps how we feel is bad, oppressive, and ought to be destroyed. Civilization is an institution and an imposition. Institutions are impositions, and therefore they must be destroyed. As Truman explains, the intuitive...
No, nobody is saying destroy Western civilization because it's oppressive. We don't get, like, whether or not we destroy Western civilization as we know it, the thing we create in its place will just be Western civilization with a different set of rules. Reforming Western civilization to be less oppressive to women, be less oppressive to minority groups, be less oppressive to people who do not already have the genetic lottery, that is, in and of itself, a good thing. Ben Shapiro standing in the way of that good thing isn't going to make Western society want to fuck you. What people like me on this platform advocate for is changing things to be better for all of us. Changing things to be more egalitarian, more sane, more civil, more kind. That's what I want. I want people to be more kind. What Ben advocates for is the status quo, the cruel world, the world we already live in. The world we already live in has problems, and it sucks, and I would like those problems to improve. I can't solve them all in my lifetime, and you can't solve them all in yours, but I think we'll do a damn better job solving them all if we focus on actually looking at solutions as opposed to just simping for the status quo. Chrissy says, it's so weird how they talk about morality and civilization like it's prescriptive but not descriptive. Yeah, it's weird considering that morality and civilization are both things that we construct as people, like as groups, and because we construct those things as people and as groups, they will always be descriptive of us. They will never be prescriptive things that we end up having to conform to. They are things that we shape. And while we may have to conform to them after the fact, we still shaped them. We still made them. We built them. Raindog says, do you think Ben's hiding behind institution's skirt as a choice to live in Sater's idea of a bad faith, I think that is? Basically, Ben is trying to say that people on the left are trying to destroy civilization because civilization as we know it is bad. So let me maybe make things clear for Ben Shapiro and his audience, any of them who happen to be watching my content randomly. Not that I think you should. My content's garbage. But capitalism has problems. I think those problems are solved by socialism. Simple as that. The problems in capitalism are almost always linked to the desperate need for the line to always go up, for profit incentive to always increase, for shareholders to always be appeased. I feel like eliminating the concept of those shareholders, eliminating the concept of rich bigwigs owning capital, and instead having communal ownership over those industries, I think it would lower the prices of goods. I think it would increase the wages of workers. And I think it would, by and large, make us as a society be more kind. Because we would be focusing more on how best to work with our resources as opposed to how best to exploit our customers. Capitalism by itself is completely and totally self-destructive. And you can say that about pretty much any economic system, I'm sure. But all things considered, I think that the profit motive, the idea of doing things strictly for money and strictly for, in some cases, survival, in some cases, out of pure greed, I feel like the world that creates more people like that is necessarily a more cruel world. And I don't want the world to be more cruel. I would like the world to be less cruel as I get older. I would like to leave a better world for when I finally have kids one day and they have to exist in it. Adagio Rose, thank you for the follow. And Sweater Kid says, for 50 bits, your content is fine. Cease the negative self-talk. I will not. Not now, anyway. But none of that requires a destruction of society. There are plenty of people who would rather work at a co-op as opposed to at a Walmart, say, like a retail co-op versus a Walmart or a Target. There are plenty of people who would rather work in some type of industry like that where they will be seen not as just a number that can be replaced with another ill-skilled worker, but as a person. Okay, hi Chipper. Hi, buddy. My doggo is jumping on me. He is telling me that the video is done. We're only 5 minutes into Ben Shapiro's video, but you know what? You're right. You're right. We should probably be done with it. Kitch Wizard says, socialism is destructive when it's done poorly. Capitalism is destructive when it's done perfectly. So let's do capitalism incorrectly and do socialism correctly and put them to fuck together. Show Puppo. Let me see if I can. If my cat cam is working, then I will show Puppo. Cat cam is working. Cat cam is working. Therefore, we will end the video with Puppos. Hi. 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 Growlithe. Stop. Stop. Growly girl. Come here. Come here. Growlithe. Hey, babe. Hey, babe. Hey. Hey. How you doing? Oh, God. Chipper is here as well. Oh, Jesus. Oh, it's time. Oh, it's time. Jesus. Okay. We end on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the content, please let me know in the comments. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, everyone, insert end the video tagline here.